Hello friend and welcome back. Today's going to be so much fun because I'm creating my dream 7-gallon cube tank. And I'm starting with this light from Aqua. They were so kind to send me this, so thank you so much, Aqua. They actually sent me one for the tank that Walter is currently in, my 5-gallon tall one. And I've been using it for a while, so I know that this is now my new favorite light. I believe that they are actually a sister brand to Hygger, which was the brand of my previous aquarium light, which was my favorite, but this is my new favorite. And honestly, they both function about the same, but this one I love because it's built like a book light. It has a clip, you can clip it anywhere on the back, and it has a bendable neck. So when you want to get your hands into the tank, maybe you're cleaning it, maybe you're fixing the scape, you don't have to shift the light. And this was the problem I was having with my previous light. I had to shift it or just take it off. But this one, I don't have to do that at all. It's completely hands-free. I love this light. I'm a big fan. So I went ahead and mounted that, and I actually discovered that it is movable. You can move, you saw me do that right there. I don't know what name to give it, but anyway, you can move it side to side. And the other one was so tight on mine that I didn't know I could do that because I tried, but I couldn't. So I just shifted that over. The one thing you want to be careful about is the two little screws that you have on back to secure it to the glass are metal. So if you're not careful, you could scratch the glass of your tank. So just be careful with that. Make sure that you go in mindfully as you're screwing it on. You could also honestly just put a little piece of felt, if you had it, in between the two screws and the glass in the back. You can't really see it, but they're there, and if you get the light, you'll understand. But this is my favorite light, so I do highly recommend it. Once I had the light set up, I actually wrapped the cord around it because there's really not a great place to mount it. So this is my favorite way to wrap the cord around to make it a little bit more invisible. Just bring it around the back because I will have a heater and filter back there, which will then hide it. Now we're getting into the fun part, the substrate. I've had this substrate sitting around for years. Honestly, this was the substrate for my first tank, that top fin aquarium gravel, and then I went ahead and I bought some of the Fluval planted stratum, and I also bought some really fine gravel to cap the stratum with. I knew that I wanted to create a natural slope in the tank, and when I got in the Fluval stratum and the gravel, the fine gravel, I knew that I didn't have enough to build it up. And since I had this top fin gravel sitting around for literally close to 10 years, I knew that I could use that. So I went ahead and used it, and now it's not sitting around in a desk drawer waiting to be used. It was perfect for this tank, so I built the slope. Once I had the slope built, I went on and added the Fluval stratum. One thing I recently discovered with this is as I rinsed it, these are actually just little balls of formed, I don't know, dirt, clay, whatever, nutrients. You really can't rinse this. I tried, and honestly, you would be wasting your time. I used to think you could rinse it, but what happens is if those little pellets meet with any resistance, they will crush and then release even more dirt and powder. So pretty much you rinsing it, it's not going to do anything, so just dump it in. It's very messy, it's very dirty, but if you're going to cap it, it keeps a lot of that stuff from rising up into the water once you fill it. And I actually had a really good experience with it overall. This is the second time I've used the Fluval stratum. I used it in my 5-gallon tank with Walter, and I really love it. The plants love it. But this time I wanted to cap it because it was really dark and I wanted to lighten up the tank. So I started by sprinkling this fine gravel over the top. I was a little bit concerned because if you notice, as it gets wet, it looks really dark, but it turns out okay in the end. It didn't discolor it or anything, so I was really happy. So I just really worked with that back and forth, trying to get a pretty good thick layer of fine gravel on the top. I keep wanting to say sand, but it's really not sand. I didn't want straight up sand, but I wanted something very close, so I ended up getting that. Now look at those layers. Oh my goodness, I'm such a fan of the layers. This is the first time that I am doing this. I have never had 3-layered substrate before, but I love it. I love it. Now, after this, I went ahead and started laying out the hardscape. So I got my Dragonstone. It's Dragonstone. I keep wanting to say lava rock, but this is Dragonstone. I got it from someone on Etsy. It was super reasonable. I used all of the pieces that I received in the mail, and it was perfect for the scape. What I had in mind was a bit of a sloping kind of rock wall that I was then going to work some of the wood that I bought around it, and I wanted it to go down gradually with the slope. So really putting the hardscape in your tank is probably the most time consuming because you really want to get it right so that you don't have to keep moving it around, and you want it to look perfect. So here's what I had so far. Now I actually ended up shifting it forward just a little bit because once I put the wood in, I didn't have enough space for the heater and filter back there. So I do shift it forward. You'll see that in the video. What I'm doing here is showing you that I like to keep about 3 fingers width of space in between each side of the glass, because when I'm cleaning the tank, I want to have a clear shot for my little metallic glass scraper, and if I put the hardscape right up against the glass, it's super hard, stuff starts shifting. So this is something new that I decided to do, and I can tell you right now, because I've already cleaned the glass a couple times, it is so much easier to give yourself some space. Again, you're going to see it kind of right up on the glass, but I end up shifting it forward because it just wasn't working. I realized I did not give myself enough space for the heater and the sponge filter, so I end up doing that, but I kept the overall shape that I'm creating here. And here is the final hardscape setup. Shifted things forward, worked in the wood behind the rocks, and I put the sponge filter and heater in the back, and honestly, I'm a big fan already. I was super thrilled. I can confidently say that this is my best scape yet. Super excited. Now is the moment of truth. Time to fill it all up with water. This was really time consuming because I took it bit by bit. I was not about to destroy everything I had worked so hard to create for at least an hour. I know it doesn't seem like it, but it did take me quite a long time to fix everything just right. The front half is lower than the back half, so if you notice, a cloud of dust from the fluval stratum is forming there. I don't really know how, but somehow a lot of the dust just kind of seeped up through the sand, and I was a little bit concerned, but I didn't let it stop me, so I kept going. It seemed like the dust actually kept to the front, and you can see at this moment I was just looking down, really hoping that this wasn't going to mess anything up, but I knew that eventually it would settle, so I went ahead and I finished filling it up so that I could allow it to go ahead and start working, cycling, and settling so that we could see what I was really working with here. After a few minutes, things started to settle, and if you look to the bottom, now there is a fine layer of dust, brown dust on the bottom. I was a little bit scared because I was afraid it might not come up, but I decided to remain positive, and I figured that after I let it settle, I would go over it with the siphon to see if I could clean it up any. Here's the tank right now. I am really proud of it. I really am in love with this tank. I love the light, I love the shape, rimless, just that it's a cube. The water is still cloudy, just a tiny bit. And that could either be from a beneficial bacteria bloom, maybe, because I did add API quick start and it has a tendency to do that. It could also be just from the sand. I'm contemplating whether or not I should do a water change, because if you see all this brown on the sand, that's dirt and stuff that actually came up from the planted substrate I have beneath the sand. And I do want to try to siphon that up. I think I should be able to, because if you notice in the back how clean that looks, that's how it's supposed to look the whole way, and it just doesn't, which honestly, it's not bad. If I can't, for some odd reason, if I can't siphon it up, I won't be too mad, but I would like to remove it so that it just feels brighter and cleaner. Can I just say I am in love with this natural slope? It's kind of hard to tell on camera, honestly. It's more effective in person. It just is. On camera, it doesn't look as big, but it's actually pretty dramatic, and you can tell from the side. I love that I decided to use my old rocks to boost the substrate that I had, because I was right. I did not have enough to create the dramatic slope that I was hoping for and that I did accomplish with that. So I have had that stuff sitting around since I was honestly probably 12, and I'm not even kidding you. It was one of the first substrates. Honestly, it was probably the first substrate I ever bought. Now that I think about it, I've probably had it since I was 12 or 13 anyway, so I used little bits here and there, but I kind of like getting to use it in this. I'm a big fan of it, and I can't wait to see what it looks like playing it up. I got a lot of different and various neat plants. I've also been talking to a friend, and she may send me a couple other cool ones that I don't have in my area. I've been thinking about what I want to do up here because it's just too empty. I think I'm going to take some plant cuttings and arrange it nicely up at the top here. Maybe even cluster some around the light to kind of hide it, make it look a little more natural. Something of the sort. I've been toying with the idea of buying one of those little inverted jar Betta lookouts off of Etsy, because they are super duper duper cool, but I haven't quite decided whether or not I'm going to do that. I am going to let this tank cycle for a month or so I have plenty of time to think on it. But right now, I love how it looks. I really cannot wait to see it with the plants. So I will go ahead and cut to the part when the plants arrive, and we'll do a little unboxing. Easy. I was not expecting it to be that easy, but I think it's safe to say I have found my new favorite substrate. Okay, the plants came in. It's pretty late in the evening, so I apologize if the lighting is a little bit wonky, but I tried my best to even it out. They arrived. I didn't order that many plants, but as you can see, the box is pretty big, so I imagine there's been a fair amount of room left in it. I'm just gonna go ahead and get it opened up. Gonna go out of frame just for a second so I can slice it open. All right, let's see what's in there. I'm pretty excited because most of these plants I have never seen in person. A bunch of these are plants, well, actually all of them I think are plants I haven't had before, which was kind of the whole point. I paid a little bit more, well, I paid quite a bit more than I've ever paid for plants. It was still reasonable, but it was just more than I've paid before, so I wanted to obviously get plants I haven't had. But I'm gonna look for the snails first. I see plants, I'm looking for the snails. Oh, there they are. Oh my goodness. Whoa. They're kind of smaller than I thought they'd be, but this one is gorgeous. Just wait until I take it out. There are a few more plants in here. I'm gonna get everything out and then we'll take a look at those snails. So here's everything. I see the Anubis that I got right away. That's a pretty beefy one. I like that. Okay, I'm going to get the snails out. Hopefully they'll be all right. They look pretty good. They're tinier than I thought they'd be, but I know they'll grow eventually. But I caught a glimpse of this little one right here. I'm a little concerned with the water. I hope they're okay. I'm just trying to get them out of the frame. This one is beautiful. Oh my goodness, I hope they're okay. They literally came the next day after it was shipped, so I think they'll be all right. I hope oh no. This snail may be dead, y'all. Oh no, and he was literally the most beautiful one. Look at him. Hold on, I gotta go get like toilet paper or something. Yeah, I was a little bit concerned when I saw the water in the package. I'm pretty sure that guy's dead, which is absolutely devastating because he was my favorite looking one. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's gone, y'all. Ugh, that makes me sick. I'm gonna have to message the seller. I hope this other dude's alive. I think he's okay. I see his foot. I see his foot, so I think he's okay. Okay, I've switched up here because for some reason the lighting was really funky down there. But I think that the biggest one I got is okay. He's really pretty. It's hard to see, but he has stripes, see, all around his body. I see his little foot right there, so I do believe he's alive, so I'm gonna go ahead and stick him into the tank just so I can kind of watch him get in there and see him come out. I think he'll be all right. I'm pretty sure he's alive. He doesn't look dead, so I think we're good. He's resting down there. See him? There he is. So we'll see if he comes out. He should though. I'm gonna have to message that seller that the one died. Oh my goodness. And he's gorgeous too, but he was small. I'm thinking maybe he didn't make it because he was small. I don't know, but let's get into the plants because I think the plants are going to be great. The first one is I think the Anubis. Yeah, the first one's the Anubis. Ooh, this dude's big. Okay. Definitely a neat plant. Look at this. Pretty big. I like it. I think these might be new leaves. Maybe. It's kind of hard to tell, but it looks like it's also sprouting a new little root right there. So that's a good sign. This guy looks pretty good. Has some debris from other leaves on him, but I think that one is good. I'm hoping for no more casualties. Hoping for no more casualties. Okay, let's see. What else do we have? Which is going to need a bit of a trim. Some of the leaves are not looking too hot, but I think it'll make a pretty good comeback. I think it's all right. It just needs, a little bit of help. I actually got 2 of these. So that's one, and this is the other one. This one has a couple ripped leaves and quite a few yellow leaves. I wonder if this is why they were on sale. This is a new seller I was trying, and for the most part the plant looks okay, but it's not exactly what I was thinking it would be. Because from the pictures it looked super healthy. I'm wondering if maybe this is why they were on sale, maybe. Which I still paid a fair amount for them, so I'm hoping the rest of the plants are okay. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little bit nervous at this point. I'll put the name of it up there because I for the life of me can't remember. It looks pretty good, healthy roots, just quite a few dead leaves, not too many. I think this is supposed to be purple, looks like. But obviously this one's gonna have to come off. Just have to do a little bit of pruning, and this is the same plant. Slightly different. Looks pretty good, I like it. These aren't dying leaves from what I gather. These are how it's supposed to look, I think. So that plant looks all right. Now on to the next bag. Let's get it opened up and see what we have. Okay, everything is all thrown together in this bag. Let's see. So here's the bucephalandra that I bought. I got a fair amount of it, so I'm not upset. I got quite a bit actually. I bought these to put in the rocks that I have, so I'm going to cut them up and put them in the rocks. I think they'll do better once they're in my tank. Some of them look a little bit rough, but honestly, I'm pretty happy with it. I would like to know though, let me know in the comments, was this worth $13? Because it was on sale. I think it was originally $17. Would you say this is worth $13? Let me know in the comments, I'm just curious. We have the cryptocoryne. I do actually remember this plant. At least I remember this one. A crypt and a, it's a little bit rough, but I think it's okay. And it actually comes on a rock. Is it attached to a rock? I think it's attached to a rock. This is supposed to be a dwarf lotus or something of some kind, but it was thrown all together. So she looks a little beat up, probably come back, but she's looking a little bit rough. So I'm gonna probably have to go clean her off. I'm gonna go do that. This is the last plant of the plant haul, and I may need to message the person because I paid quite a bit, including shipping for these. And also the snail, the snail has not come out yet, so that's a little bit concerning. I will be right back. Okay, so it's probably about an hour-ish later. The adventure continues. So here's kind of a short little story of what happened. Who knew that this little tank rescaping video would have a little bit of an interesting side to it? But anyway, a little bit of plant drama, maybe, if you will. So I called the guy that I bought them from, and he told me essentially that these two turned like this in shipping and that it's totally normal. So what I need to do is cut them off, put them in the water, and they'll be okay. And then he told me that since the one snail's dead, he will refund me, but I should wait a few days to see if that snail comes out, because he said he probably will, so then he could refund me the snail money or send me new ones, should I need that. With the plants, basically, we're finished with that. He said they're all okay, they'll be all right. I probably won't plant them tonight. I'm just going to clean them all off, prune off the dead leaves, and just kind of float them in the water. So my biggest concern was this one, which I believe is a lily. It was literally, you saw it, it was thrown into a bag of other plants with this. I called a friend of mine. She also has tanks, plants, she ships and does different things. She's actually sending me floating plants for this tank, by the way, so we will stay tuned for that. I'll be getting those in a couple of days. But basically, I called her after I called the guy, told her what happened. She looked at the plants, she said she thinks they'll be okay, so I think we're good with the plants. I'm actually pretty excited about these. So we're gonna end the night because it is late. I'm pretty tired. I'm gonna go clean up these plants. We'll see what happens with that snail in the morning. I'm going to kind of dispose of the other stuff, and I will see you in the morning when we get these planted. Good morning, friend. It is now day 3. It is 7 something in the morning, I think. And I've been thinking on last night, today I'm going to get to planting my tank, so don't worry about that. But I wanted to take a minute to kind of talk about last night because I've really been thinking a lot about it. I was contemplating whether or not I should even share who I bought the plants from, because I do not want to come across as that person who, if they're minorly inconvenienced, they then just go and just slander somebody's name. You probably know a few people like that. I've seen a lot of instances like that online. Those people are unfair, and they usually don't even reach out to the person to try to straighten things out. So I don't want to come across as that kind of person, but I also don't want to put somebody else in the place of having the same experience that I did, because I was talking to a friend and she had a previous experience with him and it was not great either. So I was kind of going back and forth, should I share who I bought the plants from? And finally I've decided to do it. And I'm just going to kind of explain what actually happened a little bit more in depth because I really don't think I did last night. I won't take a whole lot of time. You can feel free to skip for this section if you want, but I thought it could create an interesting conversation piece as well as maybe prevent you from having this kind of experience yourself, hopefully. So all in all, the plants are okay. So I bought these plants from Chi-Chi's Aquatic Dreams. That is the website, the brand. I talked to the owner himself. From what I gather, he's the only one actually running this. But the website looked great. I actually happened across it on Facebook. I just happened to see a post and then I saw he had plants and I thought, oh cool, so I checked out his website. Website looks incredible, by the way. I really loved the website. It looked really good, really professional, and there were a few reviews and they were positive. So I felt pretty confident in the decision I was making. I was excited because he actually had all the ones that I was wanting. They were more rare. I could not find them in person. I could not find them in a pet store. So I was expecting to pay a little bit more, but they were on sale. So they were actually pet store prices. Most of them, a few were more expensive. So I kind of went to the website, talked back and forth a little bit on Facebook, just kind of asking about plant recommendations. Didn't talk a whole lot, but it seemed pretty friendly and pretty nice. So I ended up buying a bunch of plants. Well, not a bunch. I bought several, a good amount. And I also want to share what I paid for these. I was struggling with that a little bit too because I don't want to come across as... I don't know, you know, sometimes people flex how much they spend on stuff. I'm not that kind of person, but I want to let you know because it kind of affects this whole situation. So, plus shipping and tax, I ended up paying $80 for these plants. Now, when you break it down, I really only paid $62 for the plants, but the shipping and the tax was $18. So in total, I paid $80 for these plants. They did come next day, so they were packed and then they were shipped, and they arrived here a day after I got the shipped notification. And that's only because he lives in the same state as I do and it was sent UPS second day. So I feel like if I had lived in another state, it's highly possible that they would have been in the mail a few more days, and at that point, I don't know what would have happened with the plant, so I'm thankful they didn't spend any more time in the mail. However, yes, I spent $80 total on these plants. And then yesterday, as you saw, I was unboxing them. I had really high hopes because I thought, you know, with how the website looked and with the amount of money that I would be paying, I expected to have a good experience. I unboxed everything. One snail was dead, the other one, I'm not sure. The plants, a bunch of the biggest leaves of these plants were totally dead. Broken, yellow, black. I had to take them off because obviously it would affect the plant and I don't, you know, they're dead anyway. They're dying. Can't bring them back. I was a little bit concerned about the plants, but I do know that sometimes that happens and then they will, you know, they'll grow back. So I'm believing that these plants are going to grow back and they're going to be healthy and they're going to be fine. But when I messaged him with my concerns, I only sent a couple messages here because he asked me to call and talk to him personally. So I don't have very many actual chat messages, but the ones I do have are here. And at first he came across as a little bit rude, and I'm just kind of gonna leave that up to you to decide, but it seemed just a little bit rude to me. So when I originally messaged, I just said, hey, I got the package. There are a few concerns, I'm afraid. And then he said, what are the concerns? And I said, I know one snail is dead, and I think the second one is too. The plants were thrown in together, and there was a fair amount of damaged leaves. And in the bag that they were wrapped, there's a lot of yellow leaves. And I wasn't getting really defensive, but I will be honest, I was a little bit nervous because I was remembering my friend's experience she told me she had previously, but I was still, you know, I was still being nice, being considerate. Anytime you're dealing with something, a situation like this, if you order something and it's not what it was advertised or you have some concerns, always make sure you're considerate. So I made sure I did that. I said, this guy isn't coming out. I sent a picture of the snail, sent a picture of some of the plants and the stuff. And then he sent this. Are you new to plants and shipping? which seemed incredibly rude to me. I'm not going to lie. It just seemed really rude. So then I said, I never complain about packaging, but I paid $80. I said, can we figure out a solution? I never really asked for a full refund. I just would like a civil resolution to this. And then he said, please call me. Gave me the number. So I called him and we had a conversation. He sounded nice enough. I mean, he wasn't yelling, he wasn't being rude, he wasn't using explicatives, but I can kind of read in between the lines, like I said, and from what I gathered, because I just kind of let him know my concerns, and he basically, after I mentioned the plants and how they looked, he basically started talking about some calls he's gotten before, like where people were yelling at him, and I told him, I said, oh yeah, I completely understand. I've had some people be pretty rude to me before because I'm not new to the business world. I've had some clients because I do some different things. And then he said there was this lady, she messaged me about her plants, and then she was calling me and she was yelling at me, and then a week later she called me and told me that I was right and she was wrong and the plants are okay and they're growing. Which on the surface, if you don't think about it too much, okay, you're telling me this experience with a woman, but to me this is what it sounded like when he said that. It sounded to me like he was saying, I'm the expert, I've been in plants for a long time, I know you don't, you're probably a beginner and you don't know that these leaves are supposed to yellow in the male. He said that they weren't like this, but that they turned into this a day in the male, which could be true. I'm not calling him a liar or anything. But I did talk to a plant friend who has some experience in this, and she's kind of skeptical as to whether or not they were like this before shipping. But either way, I talked to him, and it seemed to me like, as far as the plants are concerned, there's no hope of a refund, nothing. So really, I'm just praying that they make a full comeback and that they're going to be okay and they're going to grow well in my tank. As far as the snails, he said, wait about 4 days and then contact me to see if the snail comes out of a shell. But I do feel like a few things should have been done differently, so I would be interested to know what you think. I did not expect this to happen at all, but the interesting thing with escape is you never know what's going to happen. Also, I wanted to share something. I moved the camera. I also wanted to share something I made yesterday because I have never actually had sand or really fine gravel in a tank before. And so I heard that you want to get these little scrapers, you want to buy the scrapers just to kind of straighten out the sand because it can get displaced really easily and then you need to smooth it back out. But I didn't really want to buy one, so I had bought something, packaging that came with this really thick plastic, most like doll packages of toys, that thick plastic that comes in the box so you can see through to whatever's in there. I had some laying around. It's just that plastic, Let me cut this in a rectangle shape so I can smooth the sand out with it. So I can smooth it like this or like this, just depending on the space I have in between, in my tank. It works so well. It works so well. Do this. If you don't want to buy the scraper, you can cut up some plastic from packages you probably have laying around anyway, and it totally works. So there's that. I did want to share that with you. And that's pretty much it for the whole situation. I just kind of wanted to hop on here and talk a little bit about it. We're going to go ahead and get into the actual planting of the plants in a little bit. Everything looks pretty good, what I have anyway, after taking all the dead leaves off. I do hope that they make a good transition because from what I understand, most of them were grown above water, which is immersed, and they were not grown below water. So I hope they make the transition all right. There may be less melting. I have heard that plants that are grown immersed actually don't melt as much because instead of having to get used to different water parameters, they just have to get used to living underneath the water instead of above. So I believe there is actually less melting involved with that transition. So I'm hoping that that is the case. And we'll just see. I really do love how the tank is coming together. I'm excited. I'm learning a lot about layered substrate. This is super cool and really fun and a very interesting experience. So let's go ahead and get the plants settled in the tank. And then in a day or two, I'll be getting my floating plants. And then I think the tank will be mostly complete. All right, now it is time to get everything planted up. And honestly, this is the more tedious part of aquascaping, especially when you have planted substrate, because I'm going to have to dig down through the cap layer to get the roots buried in the substrate. It wasn't super hard, but I did have to be very careful because I didn't want to kick anything up or disrupt anything and make the water all muddy all over again, because then I couldn't see. And the water did get a little bit cloudy. It was still kind of cloudy because I added some of that API quick start. I figured that would help the cycle. I'm not adding fish early, but I just have a bottle of it on hand. I think somebody gifted it to me and it seems to work all right, so I just put a little bit in there. I imagine that's why the water was kind of cloudy. That and the fact that I was kicking dust up. With the Nubus you see here, I actually decided to secure it with some fishing wire to one of the pieces of wood that kind of stuck out. It actually resembled a tree a little bit, so I thought that was really neat. You'll see it more when I just show you an overview of the tank, but I thought that was cool. And then I just kept on planting, Some of the plants, like the Bucephalandra, didn't need its roots to be planted. I just lodged it into the rocks, but other things like this crypt needed it. And then of course I was constantly bumping other plants I had planted. Some of them came up, but most of them stayed down once I had them firmly planted. Here it is all done and scaped up. It doesn't look fantastic because it's murky. I stirred up a lot of stuff when I was planting it, so I'll give it about a day or so to clear up, and then I will see you back here because it's just not clear enough to display how actually gorgeous it is. I'm super excited. I ended up planting a bunch of just the clumps of Bucephalandra in these little crevices because I heard someone say that dragonstone can be dangerous to a betta if they just swimming around there because there are some sharp edges. So I used it to cushion all of that, to fill in the cracks and crevices. So I think it's going to be really betta friendly and also absolutely gorgeous. Oh my goodness, it's so pretty and I love how it turned out. But we'll wait for it to clear and then we'll take another little look. Day 4 or 5, I don't know, I think I've lost track. Anyway, I got my floating plants in and I'm so excited, but before I show you which ones I got, I want to give a little shout out to the woman I actually got them from. She's super sweet and I wanted to show the packaging because it was so good, but I decided I wanted to go ahead and take it out because they needed to start spreading out and getting rehydrated. Even though they were wrapped up really well in paper towels, the leaves were a little more curled than they are now, even though they haven't fully come out. But they're doing better, so I had to just kind of rinse them. I didn't think you would want to watch all that, so basically what I did is I took them out, rinsed them off to prevent any duckweed from being introduced, and then I just floated them for a couple hours. But I wanted to show you this packaging because it is so cute. Not only did she send it in an adorable box, but she sent me all these stickers, and look at this. Fish Make Life Betta, which is literally my Instagram handle. So I absolutely love this. She sent me a couple others. Look how cute they are. There's even a betta fish. I love it. And here is her business card. I actually wanted to show you this because she's so awesome. So I don't know if you could screenshot and scan this. I think you can scan it in your actual camera roll, but I think you can. Check out her Etsy and her Facebook. She is the sweetest and she has absolutely gorgeous floating plants at really reasonable prices. And she did tell me that she's planning on eventually selling other plants, not just floating plants. So make sure you follow her Etsy because this is the best experience I've had by far. So here are the bags that they came in, and I just kept them to show you the types of plants I got because I'm not super great with names yet. So I got the Salvinia minima, the dwarf water lettuce, I got the Salvinia I'm not even going to try to pronounce this. I'm just going to embarrass myself. And then I got some red root floaters. So let's take a little bit of a close-up look because this is my first time I've ever had most of these, especially the Salvinia. It was actually always a big wish list plant, but I just could never find anyone who had quality plants, and now I know someone. So if you've been wanting some of these, make sure you get yourself hooked up with some of them. But let's take a close-up look. Look at how utterly stunning these plants are. These are the red root floaters. I got a little bit of dwarf water lettuce. I didn't get a ton because I was mainly interested in these. I mean, look at how much I got. It's almost covering half of the surface of this tank, and that's still a lot for me, so I may stick some in Walter's tank. I think he would really like it. He doesn't have anything right now to build a bubble nest in, and he always likes to build bubble nests, so I think he'd like to have some of this in his tank. But look at how stinking cool these are. And here's a view of the roots. Super awesome. They need to get acclimated and used to the tank, but I think they're really going to flourish. These two, both of the Salvinia plants, are very, very hardy. They did really well in the mail, even though it was delayed several days, which was not the seller's fault. There's honestly no telling why it was late. The mailing system is really weird sometimes, but they did quite well considering, and the Salvinia did the best. So I am absolutely thrilled. I think they're gorgeous. Also, there was one other thing I wanted to do today for the tank. I'm not going to do a whole lot because it's already late in the evening. I'm going to lose my sunlight, but I did want to show you that I bought some clear airline tubing off of Amazon. I know I have the black here, but I was just looking at it. I was kind of looking at it, and I thought, even though I'm going to have plants that are eventually going to grow and hide this, I don't like this. And I realized that they actually sell clear airline tubing. So this is going to cut a lot of that kind of dark cord cable. I know I have the dark cable for the two lights, well, for the light and the heater, and I can't do anything about that, but I can do something about this. But I also needed this for something else. I wanted to create some of my signature plant holders, which if you haven't checked out my tutorial on how to do that, you need to check it out because it's super, super simple and really, really nice. I have a couple houseplant cuttings that I'm wanting to put in the corner of this tank, and because I was out of airline tubing and because I didn't like the black, because again it was kind of dark, I decided to get some clear. So I'm going to go ahead and replace that black cord with the clear, and probably tomorrow or the next day I'm going to actually make the holders. I kind of wanted to film all of that in one fell swoop, but like I said, it's getting a little dark, so I'm just going to replace that and call it a day for this tank. It's currently cycling, it's looking really good, it's pretty clear, but there are some snail poops. He hasn't come out yet, but I put some of the other ram's horn and pond snails. I actually quite like them. So there's some snail poops in there, and I thought I would also scrub this for algae a little bit, do a little bit of a water change. But I'm going to do that off camera because you already saw me kind of change the water. So I'm just going to be doing the same exact thing you saw me do earlier. Just change a little bit of the water, suck up some of the stuff off of the top of the sand. I'm going to replace that airline tubing really quickly. I figured since I'm already going, before I call it a day, I might as well just show you how to make one of the plant holders for the top of the tank. It's really simple. You're only going to need 3 pieces, and it comes in the entire kit. So you're going to need a connector, a suction cup, and your desired length of tubing. And what you're going to do is hook it up to this side of the connector, get it kind of wiggled in there. It doesn't have to go all the way, it's not super important. And then what you need to do is just determine how big you want this loop. I want the loop to be about this big because it's going to hold several cuttings at once. And then just kind of mark where you want it. So I want to cut it off right here. Cut it, and that is it. Now all you have to do is connect the line. It's a little bit harder on this one, but you just muscle through it and you'll get it. And then just decide which side you want to attach this to. And just like that, you have the perfect plant holder. It just suctions inside the wall anywhere you choose, and then you stick your plant cuttings directly in there. As long as you have a decent amount of plant cuttings, maybe some pothos or something, they will not fall out at all. They will rest, and it's really in there. It's not going to flop around or anything, as you can see. It is perfect, and this is just my favorite way to do it. Super easy, super simple, and relatively invisible. And for pretty much the final step, I took some cuttings off of my houseplants and also a cutting that I had in the previous tank, and I just kind of shoved them into the little plant ring that I just made. It did take a little bit to get them all situated, but I wanted them to look perfect and give the tank a more natural look. I have started doing this. I started doing this a couple years back to my tanks, and honestly, I think it really elevates them. I don't usually go crazy because I know eventually they will grow and spread out, but I really enjoy it. And I took a longer clipping of some of my vining plants and I just wrapped them around the tank light. I don't know why my mic wasn't working for some reason, so I'm just gonna have to record it without it. But here is the finished product. Obviously, I'm going to let it cycle for close to a month. So I'm hoping, today it's the 31st of March, so I'm hoping that by the end of next month, I will be able to introduce the new member. But what I did today was just set up the little ring that I made with all of the plants. And I like to wind trailing plants up the lights, especially because once they get acclimated to being positioned in this manner, the leaves are going to fold out like this to face the light. So as the leaves are facing outwards, they're actually going to hide a lot of that rod right there, and it just makes it look more natural, feel more natural, and just kind of helps to hide the wires, anything I have going on behind the tank or above the tank. I really like it, and I love how it turned out. The plants are doing quite nicely. They're acclimating pretty well. I'm noticing more melting with this plant, but I think it's going to come around really nicely. The floating plants are blowing me away. Look at how utterly gorgeous these are. I'm going to leave a link to her Etsy store because, oh my goodness, you need to get yourself some. They're absolutely stunning. Oh my word. This is your sign to take the leap. If you want to get some pretty and unique floaters that you don't really find commonly in your pet store, this is it right here. Gorgeous. I'm really excited to be able to take photos and videos in this tank and just use it for my content. It's absolutely gorgeous. I love how it turned out. And wow, this whole setup video was a bit of an adventure, wasn't it? But I had so much fun. So if you've made it to the end of the video, thank you so much for sticking with me. This was a lot of fun to create, and I loved having you come along for the ride. Believe it or not, just setting this up alone taught me a whole lot, and I'm really excited to see where it's going to go. So this is the end of the video, friend. Thank you for tagging along with me. Let me know what your favorite part was in the comments if you have not already. And as always, if this is your first time to the channel, feel free to check out all the other content. I have a lot of helpful and inspirational content for Betta keepers such as yourself who just want to give your Betta a better life. Or a better life, but that might be kind of cheesy. Anyway, if you have not yet, head to the description and check out my free Facebook group, the Betta Fish Forum. Very shortly after this video comes out, I will also be announcing and finding the new member for this tank, so stay tuned. I'm super excited for that. And with that said, friend, have a wonderful rest of your weekend. God bless, and I will see you soon.